Okay, go ahead. Are you there, Paul?
Got it. Yeah, I had to push the got it button without hanging up. Okay, welcome everyone. This is the March 16th Police Commission meeting. And let's start with the minutes from the previous meeting, February 16th. Any admissions, corrections?
I had only one minor change in the section 1 minutes of previous meeting. On the right-hand margin, it says January 19th, 2022 meeting.
Oh,
Take out the letter H as written.
Got it.
yeah,
That's the value. That's my valuable input.
that's very good.
So
I missed that, and I saw nothing else. Shakeva?
I didn't see anything else.
Oh, good. All right. So motion to approve the previous meeting minutes from February 16th.
So moved.
Second. All those in
Aye.
favor? Aye. All right. Minutes from the special session, February 23rd. Any admissions or additions or corrections?
Not here.
Not here either.
Not here
Shakeva?
either. Nope,
Okay. Motion
not
to
here.
approve.
So moved.
So let's give it a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, great. Department monthly reports, Chief.
Sure. The first report I have is our budget.
Yeah.
We should be at 66.64 and our actual is 64.90. So we're slightly under budget. So that's good news. No real concerns about any of the lines as the months go on towards the end of our fiscal year. End of June, we're going to move some money around to cover some lines, but overall, we're in good shape.
Good.
Animal control is at 62.50, so that's also under budget. So that's good news. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Next report I have is monthly statistics. I'll highlight some incidents, burglaries, 4 year-to-date versus 0 year-to-date last year. And our county is facing a group that's going around committing burglaries largely on Friday, late afternoon, early evenings, but we have some leads and we're hoping we're going to be able to partner with some other departments and make some arrests, but certainly concern there. And obviously set your alarm, put your valuables away and report any suspicious activity is always good practice for our residents. Family disputes 14 versus 7. So that's about 50% increase. That's typically a good news because we're getting called for help. And we like to help out when we can. Not all those result in arrests, but there are disputes of one sort or another. Fraud, all 16 versus 9. So that's a pretty significant increase. We continue to get calls regarding people defrauded. And if anyone has a questions, they should always call their department routine number and we'll assign an officer to help them out if they're not sure if it's a legitimate transaction or not. Larceny from vehicle 5 versus 8. So that's down slightly. That's good news. Location checks 407 versus 101. And that's a substantial increase, largely due to increased checks of our parks and center of town and other areas to hopefully thwart some of these bad guys that are coming into town and stealing from cars and stealing cars and hitting our parks. So we'll continue that activity and tracking that. Motor vehicle accident property damage 65 versus 55. So that's an increase, not atypical, given that traffic patterns are normalizing. Injury accidents 6 versus 4. That's 6 versus 3. So that's an increase, and we'll continue to watch that and do enforcement as needed in problem locations. Psychiatric problems 14 versus 11. That's an increase, and I think we'll continue to see that increase. And our officers handle those incidents really well, and some are pretty complex and some are repeats. So we're glad to help our residents that need those kind of behavioral health interactions. Stolen vehicles 5 versus 6. That's down slightly, so that's good news. I hope that trend continues. I have no other comments about monthly statistics. Any questions? No. Okay. Next report I have is our staffing report. We lost time about 23.20 versus 16.70 and 31.27, same months previous 2 years. And we worked minimum shift about 55% of the time. And that is a little bit of an increase compared to the past couple of years, resulting in our staffing deficiencies. Good news is Officer Blank is back from military leave, so he's helping our shifts. We do have an officer long-term injury. We do have a retirement opening, and we do have a officer that is likely long-term sick that may become long-term injury. So those 3 deficiencies will continue to kind of deplete our staffing a little bit, but we're doing our best to address that.
Okay.
Next report I have is our false alarm aging. And as I mentioned, the previous couple of meetings, over 120 is the bulk of the uncollected funds, which is 11,450. I did pass that along to the CFO, and she said she was going to contact the company that actually does the collections and see what was advisable as far as writing that off or continuing trying to collect that or not. Next report I have is extra duty aging. Fair amount of money is uncollected from 31 days forward, about 115,000 with 17,000 uncollected. That's over 120. And once again, I'll pass that along to our CFO to see what can be done better to try to collect those monies before they become too aged in that regard.
Yeah, it looks like it's sort of, the usual 2 groups. And I don't know if it's a billing issue on our part or their part or what, but
yeah,
I think
I'll try to see what she says about it.
Okay.
And that's all I have for reports.
Got it. Okay, so topics for discussion: traffic calming measures on Valley Road. Deputy Chief, is this yours?
No, I think it's Keith Simpson's group that is going to present something.
Okay. And who's presenting from that group?
Mr. Pollock and, oh, go ahead.
I'm here, Keith Simpson, and I'm here with Bill Pollock from my office. And, we're landscape architects here in New Canaan. You may be familiar with the work of our office in downtown and Waveney and Mead Park and so on. We're here this evening to talk about some suggested improvements to Valley Road in the area of Silver Hill. So we've been working with Silver Hill now for several months to develop better signage, and especially in the entrance areas, which were recently changed and improved out on the Valley Road. I would say that I actually am personally a neighbor to Silver Hill property. So I travel down Valley Road every single day past the campus, so I'm very well familiar with it. And I would also add, we have a picture of the Silver Hill.
I was wondering if we could get access to share the screen, please.
Yeah, let's put up that the
Yeah,
graphic
one
on
second.
the.
We've got a few things to share with you.
Very nice.
Give it a try now.
Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you. That's good. Okay, yeah. I would add also that we have been in touch with the neighbors along Valley Road. Many of them, probably, I don't know, 10, 15 of the neighbors up and down Valley Road, to let them know what our plans are. We've had Zoom meetings with many of them, and we've had in-person meetings with some of them who wanted to have that. COVID has interfered with some of that. But basically, the important thing is that we've been in touch with them. We have received some feedback from 1 or 2 of them. I think we've incorporated their comments, which were welcome, and they were solicited by the Dr. Gover of Silver Hill. And so when we finally got all of those plans worked out and so on, then we recently had a meeting with Public Works Department, Tiger Man, and we went over our plans with Tiger as well. So I know he's on the call. So if he has additional comments regarding what we're proposing, I'm sure and hope that he would weigh in. So now, I think if I could just familiarize you a little bit with the area that we're talking about. This is the Silver Hill campus, and it is actually on it's sort of the top half of the road there above Valley Road. Valley Road runs right to middle, left to right. The top part is the West Campus, and the bottom part is the East Campus. And what many people don't necessarily know about Silver Hill is that it actually has 7 major buildings on each side of Valley Road. So it's actually a unique campus in that its activity is bisected by an important road. Valley Road is a busy road. And we were talking recently about the fact that on campuses in New Canaan generally, and there are other campuses in New Canaan, there's St. Luke's, there's the country school, all of the individual schools, but almost, I mean, we think that all of them are actually not bisected by a road, which gives Silver Hill a unique challenge, really. And in fact, all of us who are involved in, are interested in public safety in town, a unique challenge. So with 7 buildings on each side of the road, there is significant cross pedestrian traffic in an area of town where if people were driving along Valley Road and were not necessarily familiar with the fact that there was a campus there and Silver Hill was there, and they felt they were just driving along another residential road with cars coming in and out of driveways, they would not expect to find major pedestrian cross traffic, and also, in fact, 2 pedestrian crossings, which we now have, we would like to improve. So I think with that, I'd just like to turn it over to Bill, who's taken some very good photographs to familiarize you with the actual areas of the campus, areas of Valley Road, which we're making suggestions about. So I turn to Bill and he can take you through what we're talking about here.
Okay, thank you, Keith. So this is our overall plan that we had submitted to your commission, and we'd like to zoom in on the areas, including with some photographs. We're going to start on the south end of the campus, and the entire frontage is roughly about 1,800 feet that Silver Hill has frontage along Valley Road from the south end to the north end. So we're going to start on the south side here. The first building that we're really getting a good look at is called the River House. And then we will have some photographs that take us up towards the north end. So this is the south end that we're referencing. The River House is the building in the back there. And what we're proposing is to start the hospital signage and the notifications right where the campus really does start. There is some signage that, for example, says hospital slow on it. It's way back further down the road. And we believe that some of the signage was put in prior to the campus expanding to its current state, including on this south end as well as the north side. So some of the signage doesn't quite relate to current conditions. So for example, on the south side here and also on the north side, we'd like to take the existing hospital sign and move it to the edge of the campus. Along with that signage where it says hospital, we'd like to drop the speed limit. Currently, the speed limit is 25 miles per hour all along Valley, certainly appropriate. But through the campus area, we're recommending that we drop it a little bit further, 5 miles per hour down to 20 miles per hour. Currently, the signage in the hospital zone says slow, which we know from Public Works and we know from general traffic recommendations. They don't like to use that term really anymore, where it just says slow. So instead of that, we'd like to switch it out where it changes the speed limit to 20 miles per hour. We're also requesting that during or through this hospital zone, and at the south entrance and the north entrance to the campus, we have a radar sign as well. That would be a permanent sign mounted with the speed limit that that continually tracks the speed of folks driving along Valley. That tends to add another measure of traffic calming when people see that. So they will, as they're approaching Silver Hill, they will see a hospital zone sign. They will see a 20-mile-per-hour sign, and there will be a radar sign as well.
And where would you propose that, Bill? Where would you propose that to be?
Right about
There? Okay, now I can see that. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's one
Right
of those,
opposite.
it reads your speed and then, reads it back to you. So, you know how they work, and
I
we're
do.
very impressed with them, and we think they're very effective.
And you do that at both ends?
We do it at both
Right.
ends. That's right.
Not to jump ahead, but,
That's okay. Yep,
okay,
that's
got it.
right.
All right. So,
And in this picture, you can also see there's a pedestrian crossing sign here. The crossing is actually several hundred feet north of that sign. So we like to add a little sign above that, below that, that says ahead on it. And moving north, this is, we might say, is the main intersection of the campus. On the left-hand side is the entrance to the west campus, and on the right-hand side is the entrance to the east campus. As you can see, there is a crosswalk, which is certainly helpful. And we can see the back of a pedestrian crossing sign indicating that crosswalk exists. But what we're proposing on this crosswalk and on the one that's a couple hundred feet further up the road there is to do the RRFB, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. I'm sure you're familiar with those. We have installed those. When I say we, I mean the town of Milligan has installed those in other parts of town, Weed Street and Elm Street intersection. There's some up by God's Acre, and those are, of course, the flashing signs that are activated by the pedestrian. So we'd like to install that signaling at this crossing as well as the next crossing.
okay.
Could I ask a quick question on that?
Of course.
Where that crosswalk lies, where would you put that RRFB? Would you put it past it?
Yeah, in this heading north, yes, I think it would be on the just past it, correct? Because on the south, or yeah, on the south side, we're into the entrance, the actual roadway or driveway pavement. So it would really be on the other side. That's right. And this, we should note that Silver Hill is in the middle of a significant sort of landscape and site improvement project. And so the condition that we see at the moment, for example, on the east campus here, that's a berm, which is unfriendly for signage and pedestrians and everything else, but that's actually going to get graded down quite a bit to be more consistent with the other side, the west campus. Right now on the west campus, when you cross the crosswalk, you're right onto a sidewalk, which is certainly appropriate. And there's a lot of room for signage. On the east campus, that will be addressed as well. There will be a walkway with a rumble strip for pedestrians, and then we'll have ample room for the RRFB as well.
Okay.
I should note too that we're requesting from the entire length of the frontage, the 1,800 feet plus or minus, a shoulder striping on both sides of the road. You can see that currently it does not exist. And what that does, of course, is help for the motorists to understand that they need to be a little bit more careful and stay in their the traffic lane. And that would just give an extra understanding that they're in a different area and to hopefully be more alert as a result. So that stripe would be on both sides. And the shoulder striping is all along 106 actually, which isn't quite far. It isn't far from the Silver Hill campus, but it's not on Valley at all. And we don't think it needs to run all along the entire length of Valley by any stretch, but it can, there's logical places for it to stop and start at the sort of approach to the campus and the northern approach to the campus.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Moving along. This is the second pedestrian crossing if you were traveling north.
Right.
And again, you can see the back of the pedestrian crossing sign. So we'd like to add an RRFB here as well. And there are sidewalks, good sidewalks with the rumble strip. So there's room, again, probably on the north side for the RRFB to be installed.
I would, so I could just add on with the RIFPs and so on. We know that Silver Hill are very, very conscious about the safety of not only the staff and everyone there, but especially patients who are crossing the road and so on. And so we do think that it sort of shares the responsibility in some ways for crossing the road by giving the pedestrians the opportunity to stop the traffic, enable them to cross and so on. So Silver Hill is enormously concerned about the safety of its entire community. And so this is very, very much driving thinking regarding improvements to these pedestrian crossings.
Okay. So that would just basically mirror the one south of it.
That's
correct.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
okay. Yep.
And we, with the RFPs, of course, are signage, pedestrian signs that have the flashing beacon, of course.
Right.
So that
Okay.
would be part of that condition. We have, as Keith mentioned earlier, we have reviewed, all of these with the town. They're supportive of them for sure. And they are glad to work with Silver Hill on who's installing them, who's supplying them. And so they're willing to partner together to do all of these improvements.
All right,
Yeah.
can I ask the typical New Canaan question, which is who's paying for this? You know,
Right.
Keith, as you know, we've been through a lot of these projects, so.
Well, I was
would.
listening to Chief Krolikowski going through his budget for sure, but no, actually, Silver Hill would be supplying the infrastructure here, and then Tiger Man said that they would want to participate in the installation of them and help us with that. But the actual signage, all of the infrastructure would be supplied by Silver Hill. That's what the understanding is.
And Tiger, you're on board with all this?
Yes, Paul, I am.
Excellent. And any other changes, Bill or Keith?
Really, I'll just take you through a couple more. Oops, I keep going the wrong direction. A couple
Sure.
more slides here. This is looking south now, and just as another view.
So we're above both of the pedestrian crossings at this point, right? Now we're
Right.
looking south, yeah.
Right.
Yes, gotcha.
And then this is also looking south from the right in front of the water company property. So basically at the end of that stone wall is where the Silver Hill campus starts. Up to the
Mhm.
right is the Hill House. That's what that structure is called. And so what we're proposing on the north end is similar to what we mentioned on the south side. We would move the hospital zone sign. There is another one sort of further down. We would move that to the beginning of the campus with the radar sign. And as a result, this speed limit sign would move north because it can't be too close to the other signage. So it would move about 100 feet to the north. I believe that that is all of the signage that is requested, all of the, signage and pavement markings that are requested. These are sort of enlargements of the plans that you have and take us through exactly where we're recommending some of these improvements. These plans also show some of the existing signage that is to remain. For example, opposite the Jurgensen building here, there's a pedestrian crossing sign that there's no, we aren't making any recommendations to alter that at all. I don't know how much of a chance you've all had to study these plans. They're But,
You know, when if I can, when I look at the plan, it looks fairly straight lines, except at the south end, there's a bit of a bend to the west. But the campus, for the most part, is pretty much a straightaway. Is that pretty correct? I mean, your line of sight is pretty good, in other words, right?
the line of sight is pretty good. That's right. So here's an example of what you were referring to. As you get past, right around the pedestrian crossings and further north, it is more of a straight shot. And it does turn to get a bend again as you get to the north side there. I can zoom out.
But where the two pedestrian crosswalks are, there's enough room for a pedestrian to see oncoming traffic. Right.
They can.
Yeah, there's good visibility actually up and down. I think
Yeah.
coming from the north, the challenge is really to keep the traffic slowed down because it's a hill from the
Right,
north up
that's
and
right.
down. And so, but it's a straight shot, so visibility is good, but as it's a downhill, then people are liable to pick up speed if you're not careful. Coming from the south, the challenge is the fact that right before where we got the main entrance sign, there is a curve in the road there. So if we get people slowed down coming into that curve condition, then they find the new main entrance into the campus and so on. We've got to slow them down around these pedestrian crossings, both for the north and the south, and they actually have different challenges. But that's why we're doing all this recommended changes.
Right. And then the radar from going from north to south, where would you put that beacon? It's not a beacon, it's a sign.
Yeah, right. It would look like I'm kind of got my cursor on the screen there.
You got it.
But near the Hill House, or right?
Yes, right.
Right.
Okay.
Near where the speed limit drops down, Tiger was making us aware of the statutory distance that's required between one speed sign and the next. You can't go from 25 to 20 to 15, in
Right.
amount of time. And Tiger was very, he was very helpful with the whole of the thing when we went into it. But he knows those kinds of regulations, and we don't, so we appreciate his input.
Okay, and then commissioners, any other questions? Just up to this point, I've got a few more, but I don't want to dominate. Sure.
Yes, the blinking lights, they're only activated when somebody presses the button, so it's not on all the time to annoy the neighbors?
Correct.
That's correct.
The ones at the crosswalks, they have to be, there's basically a button that they press to activate it.
Thank you.
I think
Are
it's
those
just
the lights that you refer to as is it RFPs?
They're called RRFB. They're rectangular rapid flashing beacon.
Bees, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, this is an example of one by God's Acre, actually. You can see the screen there, my cursor is on it. And it's got a button on it. And this one, actually, I happened to get the picture when it was flashing. So, and it has a solar power pack attached to it. So it doesn't need to run power, it can have its own, power. And that's helpful. And certainly along Valley, it's certainly treed and shady in some parts, but we understand that usually they don't take a lot of power, so there should be enough light. And there's certainly enough clearing around those crossings that we believe there'll be enough light for the solar.
Okay.
And your answer to the last question was that light would go on when someone presses the button. It doesn't constantly flash
That's
24
right.
hours a day.
It's really just for the duration that it takes for someone to, it can be obviously programmed accordingly, but to cross the road, and then it just simply stops, and it's done its job, once people are across the road.
Right, okay.
And it does.
It's very similar to Weed and Wahackney, right next to the park. There's a couple of them there. Yeah. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
All right.
understand that they're working well for the town. I mean, obviously, one of our questions for Tiger was, is this something which, so that we weren't the first to pioneer this in the, on the road here. And we understand that they're actually well received, you know.
Yeah, Tiger, can you comment on that? Because I don't know. I've seen people go right through them at Weed and
Yeah.
Acme. Yeah,
Well, they're not going to stop everybody, right? But
right.
the initial reaction is 92%, and it drops over time to somewhere in the mid 80s, right? Whereby it's probably the best system we might have, right? As far as actually getting people to be aware of it and actually to to stop, or the any regular sign, even our speed sentry signs, over time they become part of the landscape. The RFB is the only one where it has an adherence rate of 92%, right? And then somewhere in the 80s, 85 or high 80, 88 over time. So you're not going to get everybody, but these are the models that we've put, like you said, at Weed and Wahackney for the two crossings that we have there. Weed and Wahackney, and then Weed and Elm, and then we have it at Main and Old Norwalk and Farm Road, and then we have one at Saks, and they're all the same unit, and basically exactly as Keith and Bill had mentioned. You press the button, it starts to flash. It flashes for your crossing time. It allows time for the vehicle to stop, and then your crossing time, and then it stops, right? So that's the reason why for the high adherence, right? Because that rapid rectangular flashing beacon is a wigwag pattern, very similar to what are the flashing lights on a police car or an emergency vehicle. Only these are yellow. And then so like I said, they've worked very well for us, and I think they'll work well here.
Okay. John DeFederico, any thoughts here as well?
Yeah, Tiger, would the speed limit be 20? Would that be an advisory sign, or are we looking to change the actual speed limit?
That was an advisory plaque.
Okay, good.
It would be the yellow advisory plaque, the 20 mile per hour.
Okay, so we don't
at
need.
present, we weren't looking to drop the speed to 20. We were looking to give them an advisory that there was a pedestrian underneath the pedestrian crossing ahead sign would be an advisory plaque of 20 miles per hour coming from both directions to let them know that they're coming into a pedestrian zone.
Okay.
What's the advisory? I'm sorry, what's an advisory plaque?
It's just an advisory, and it's not enforceable. So we couldn't write a speeding ticket for it, but it's to make people aware that it's a zone that they should slow down for.
Right. It's a yellow. It's a black on yellow versus black on white. Black on white is regulatory. Black on yellow is advisory. We can certainly go the other route and make it regulatory, but I think at present an advisory plaque would be sufficient.
And I believe we did the advisory plaques down by the Art Guild.
Correct. Yeah, we have them. We have them in several locations, either on a high for a turn that we want people to slow down on, or in other locations we've used them, and I think they're working well.
Okay.
And also,
the
speed signs. Do you know, will we be able to work with them? Because we have several units, and we would like to get the same manufacturer and possibly have access to the data.
That was the proposal. Yeah, that was the proposal, to use our speed sentry so that we could utilize that data.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Commissioners, any other thoughts?
No, I'm good.
No.
Okay, I would tend to move to look for a motion to approve these changes. Jim, would you like to make a recommendation?
Yeah, all right. I would move that we approve the traffic control changes as presented by Messrs. Simpson and Pollock on the Valley Road, at the Silver Hill facility.
Very good. Second, Shikeba?
I second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right, that's unanimous. And just, for Keith and Bill and for our friends at Silver Hill, we are all good neighbors, and we enjoy working with you. So thanks for all of this.
Thank you. We appreciate your support. And we
Yeah,
want
if you,
to work very closely with Tiger and the
Yeah.
chief to the extent that we want to work as a team, you know.
yeah, and if you need any tweaks to it, I know you're not, Keith, I know you're not shy, but just come back and talk with us, all right?
Okay.
Okay, great.
Thanks a
Great,
lot.
thank you. Next item, art in the windows event.
For Hillary?
Let me
Yes.
get to that.
Uh,
Hey,
Oh, here.
yep, I'm on it now. Hi, Hillary.
Hi. Hi, I am
Hi,
just.
there you are.
I'm good, thanks. I am here with a request and proposal similar to last year for our Art in the Windows event, which is our annual exhibit that we organized together with the New Canaan Chamber of Commerce. It's our sort of one big event for the New Canaan Society for the Arts and the Carriage Barn that's not within the Carriage Barn Arts Center that we do downtown. And it's an important way for us to sort of do outreach and have visibility downtown, and also to just bring a lot of excitement into the town with art in almost all of the store windows along Elm Street and Main Street, Forest Street. So this is actually the 15th year that we're doing this exhibit.
Okay.
And the last few years, every year we've done sort of a kickoff evening event, usually on a Thursday evening before the exhibit starts. Last year, we expanded that to take place in the pop-up park area at the corner of South Avenue and Elm Street. And we got permission from you to close that street for the evening. And we had lots of activities taking place there, and it was very successful. So
Okay.
we're looking to sort of expand on that this year. And for our 15th year, rather than a Thursday evening, to make this a day-long Saturday event where we can have, not only promote art in the windows, but really have a sort of downtown celebration of the arts and have many of our artist members out there with demonstrations and workshops showcasing their work, activities for the community. We're working with a couple of our board members who are sort of taking the helm with chairing this. One is Phil Williams, and he's really interested in, organizing a day-long, performances, live music, not sort of extreme loud rock music all day long, but having live music performances throughout the day. And this is entirely run by Carriage Barn staff and volunteers and, community volunteers and our board members.
Okay, so you're looking for this for June
Yes, sorry, I didn't mention the date, but it's
4th,
Saturday, June 4th.
with a rain date of June 11th, which is great. Okay, so
Right.
let's get that
And-
approved now. Good.
Yes, and these dates, we ran these by Tucker, and just to make sure there weren't any other kind of big town events on the calendar, and these are cleared with her on that end.
Okay, and then insurance and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
With,
so the next
she's-
step, if we get approval from this, we'll sort of take those steps, which we usually do with the town, getting the permit and submitting our insurance for the day to cover
Right.
everything.
Excellent. Okay, so you need it from basically 8 a.m. till 4 and clean up probably a couple hours more till 6 p.m.
I would say the cleanup would not be more than an hour.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
Okay, so why don't commissioners, any other thoughts here?
You did it last year at the pop-up park, and in prior years, no?
Prior years, we've just sort of had it going on along Elm Street, and we've had activities taking place at various locations, but we really found we needed kind of one central location where everything
Yeah.
kind of kicks off. So it was excellent to do it last year and have that spot for a few hours, but it was a lot of setup and coordination for really just sort of an hour and a half long event. So I think we'd be able to just accomplish a lot more by making it a day-long event.
Okay,
Okay. Shakeba, any other thoughts here?
Oh, it's just a fabulous event for the
Yeah,
town.
there you go.
So,
All right.
yeah.
All right, so why don't we make it, Shakeba, you're gonna make the
Mhm.
resolution here. I'm thinking 8 AM to 5 PM. Okay, you're gonna make that motion?
Okay. I would move to approve
And
the,
in the, why don't we call it in the corner of Elm and South,
yeah,
formerly
Right.
known as the pop-up park?
formerly known as the pop-up park.
Because we can't call it the pop-up park.
Art in the Windows event on Saturday, June 4th, with a rain date of June 11th from 8 to 5 p.m.
Very good.
Mhm.
Jim, a second?
I second.
Second, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous.
Okay.
That's great. Hillary, thank you for doing this. This
Thank
is,
you so much.
this is an important
Okay.
town
Thank you.
event, you know.
Yes.
It's
Great.
having it on a sidewalk isn't quite the emphasis that it deserves. So,
Right. Well, mark your calendars. We'll see you there.
well, make sure you send it out to all of us too, to
Yeah.
make sure that, you know, all town people kind of know that it's going on. So,
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
C, the 15-minute loading zone discussion. Laura, are you involved here?
I am. And,
You've been very busy, I hear. And let me
I
say,
promise you,
before you
I-
start,
Yes.
let me just say thank you for taking this on, because this, as you know, has been an issue for a while, and we needed somebody to really grab it and do a little bit more work than I certainly could spend the time on. So I appreciate all the work you've done on this. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I guess bringing this concept to you, it comes from a lot of different hats that I wear. Number one, Chamber of Commerce, being downtown, seeing, for 10 years, my office has been above the Playhouse, and then being on the Parking Commission, and now chairing that commission, listening to my merchants, and seeing some changes downtown. And
Right.
so when we were together last month, and we were talking about how to resolve this issue on the corner of Main, I also know I have a lot of new parking commissioners, so I undertook to learn more about loading zones. I worked with Stacy. I said, okay, give me the big list of loading zones, right? And it turns out there's really only 5 in our downtown area. So the 3 that I want to talk to today, now while Deputy Chief DeFederico and I started having conversations, obviously surrounding the Main Street and the adjacent businesses and the issues that Mr. Marks is having with Greenology, it made us kind of stop and think, well, could this concept apply other places? So we've got 2 all-day loading zones that should not be touched. One is at the South Elm intersection.
South and
it's
Elm,
10 to
right?
Yeah,
Formerly
it's 10
known
to
as the
3.
pop-up park area.
Yeah,
Right.
it's AKA the pop-up park. It's on the west side of that street, and all
Right.
day long, FedEx, UPS. And then there is one on Burtis Street that I guess, according to the parking officers that I've spoken to, is also 10 to 3, and that's used a lot. So we're not talking about those. The 3 loading zones we're talking about is obviously the one on Main Street
Right.
that I think maybe was there because of the post office. I'm not sure. Then there is one right on Elm Street, right sort of in front of Houlihan Lawrence, right there,
Mhm.
close to the Elm Park intersection. And then there's one down on Forest Street, right adjacent to that little pocket park. And that's a tricky one because it's a handicapped and the loading zone. And I guess when I look at the evolution of businesses, and we've done, all of us, police, the first selectman's office, the parking commission, have all worked together to really understand all the different types of parkers we have in town. So we've created free parking in the outer lots. We have premium parking for businesses that need to come and go all day in the inner lots. And we have, we have this other group that's downtown and we see they get tickets all the time, is the Uber drivers, the DoorDash, the whole gig
Right, right.
economy, on top of the shoppers who are always complaining, I can never find a space. And really it's because they have a quick errand. So could we
Yep.
take those 3 loading zones and convert them into all day 15-minute zones? Obviously our number one goal is always, safety, public safety. And the number 2, from a parking perspective, and while you guys are in charge of the streets, we have to uphold or veto tickets that come there. Can we convert those into 15-minute spots to encourage fluidity? So I did my homework and I sent emails, 3 separate emails to the businesses adjacent to those 3 spots. And I've got really primarily positive feedback that they think it would help fluidity. Some say, sure, give it a try. And our loadings, so that's my spiel.
Got it. Anybody come out against it? Any negative responses to making it all 15
At
minutes?
first they were nervous that, because I reminded them that on Morse Court, we have this right in the lot, but that's a whole side of
Yeah, that's 15
curbing.
minutes too. Right, right.
Yeah.
And that works pretty well, right?
I think it does. And
people
no
move
one
along.
can remember when that started. So, but, I think as long as we weren't taking every space, and I don't know exactly how big the space should be. Is it 1 car or 2 cars? Should it be enough for a box truck, which is like a car and a half? I'm not quite sure. That I'll leave up to the experts. But the concept of a high turnover space in these areas, I think would be attractive for businesses, residents, vendors, all the rest.
Very good. Okay. Deputy Chief DeFederico, your comments?
Yeah, I work closely with Laura on this, and I think, it'll make sense for the greater good. We're not looking to just do this for 1 or 2 businesses. We looked at it holistically for the whole downtown, and it's there seems to be a need for this. And the further we looked at statutes and town ordinances and what exactly is a loading zone and what is loading and unloading, this seems to make sense, and it fits a greater group of people that are now using the downtown with these delivery services and whatnot. So I think it's a good idea. As far as size, we'll work that out with Tiger and I as far as signage, but I think, at least the main and east one would probably be 2 to 3 parking spots, depending on,
Sure.
how many linear feet it would be. But, I think this is a good plan.
All right, Tiger, you're on? Did you hop? I don't see. All right. he might
He's
have
still
hopped.
there.
Yeah, I'm
Here
here.
he comes.
Okay, any thoughts there, just on signage, I guess is what we're gonna
I
head
think
for here.
we can take a look at it and find, John and I, like you said, find something suitable, to work. I think it's gonna be a nice plan for everybody.
Okay, I kind of favor those small rectangular ones put on posts, that aren't.
Yes, I don't want to be too, I don't want to be
We
too
don't want to
crazy.
be, right. Let's not reinvent the wheel here. It can be subtle, but yet informative and to the point, that there's no confusion as to what's going on.
Exactly. Something that's at eye level and easy to
Eye
read,
level, exactly.
easy to interpret. So I think that's largely the problem now, is it's too hard to interpret what the loading zone is and when
Right.
it is, and it
Right.
just confuses people. So something pretty clear would be great.
Good. Okay, so let's call for a vote here.
Well, hang on a sec.
All right,
just
let's
so I'm
have more
clear,
discussion then. I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say, Jim.
Are we saying we're going to take which loading zones, the 3 through 5?
The Main Street, Elman, basically Elman Park, right?
And-
And then the one on
Elmer
Forest Street.
Forest
Right.
Street, right?
And they're going to be, under this
Made f-
proposal, they would be
yeah.
converted to 15-minute parking
Right.
for not just trucks unloading, but any citizen who wishes to park for 15 minutes?
Yes,
I'm a little concerned about it, because, and I know everyone's done a lot of work asking the views of the shop owners and so on, but no one's asked the truck drivers. And so, you know, if the trucks come to deliver and there were people parked there in the spot, where does the truck park? In other words, now it's really reserved for the trucks to make deliveries, right? So now you have citizens parked there to do shopping or whatever errands they're doing. Where's the truck gonna park?
The trucks,
Right.
at least on Elm and Main, are typically double parked because they can't, the bigger trucks, a lot of times can't even fit in those spaces. And they want to park absolutely as close to where they are going. So my experience and what I see is they just double park anyway.
Mhm.
And then on Forest, a lot of times they're either at the top of Main or on East Avenue where we don't want them. It's too tight on Forest for them to double park unless it's early in the morning. Because these loading zones are typically 7 to 10 or 7 to 11. And our deliveries tend to happen, you know, from 10 to 2, from what I see. I mean, obviously there's stuff going on all day, but the restaurants typically come in, you know, right before lunch.
Well, I'm willing to give it a try to sort of adjust, if we can, to sort of this current economy that we have, and to adjust to kind of customer habits of 15 minutes, dash in, grab your stuff and go. And there just doesn't seem to be enough of that around town. And we're really talking, is it sort of 2 spaces per, in rough numbers, 2 spaces per zone. So it's 6 spaces, right? That we'd sort of be picking up around town, not 2.5, but say 2 spaces, and try the 15 minutes concept and see how that goes. I'm willing to do that.
So is the signage going to say loading zone, 15-minute parking, or what will the signage say?
No, I think it
15
should just
minutes.
say 15-minute parking. Just make it very clear.
So how will the truck drivers know where they're supposed to park? They're just supposed to be double parked?
They already still do it. They already know where to go.
They really don't park there, do they, much, Laura?
They don't necessarily pull into the space. They use that area.
Yeah.
And the concept was to keep it clear for them, but you know, they don't, they like Laura said, they go where they need to and they just park and unload and they're gone in 5 minutes.
Mhm. And it kind of slows traffic down a bit too, with that there, which is not a bad outcome either. I mean, I'm not wild about it,
But the area of Main and East can accommodate that double parking. That's why we want to keep
yeah.
that area as a quick change area, and that's why I was so adamant that we should keep that as a loading zone.
Yeah, rather
because
rather
it
than
can
a parking
fit.
zone,
It
right?
can accommodate that double parking in those trucks, and everybody's used to it. But the other locations, Forest and Upper Elm, those are challenging spots for trucks, and I don't know that I've ever seen trucks utilizing those areas. Certainly not Upper Elm. I think that's a wasted loading zone area.
Okay.
Which one is wasted, John?
Upper Elm Street, by the across from Starbucks, you know, up on the corner of Elm Park by
Elm
the
Park, yeah.
real estate.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Look, I am concerned about whether it will make deliveries more difficult, but I suppose we could try it and see what happens. But how are we going to monitor to see what happens?
Laura?
Well, the other thing I wanted to add is I asked the parking, officers who are the ones, really out on the streets.
Right. Are
And
they
they
going to enforce
feel-
every 15 minutes?
Well, they will be able to put that as part of their rotation because it's easier to monitor. We just, we had a ticket appeal and the business said, oh, I was loading. The officer said, no, they weren't. So this way, they'll be able to monitor. It's not a lot of spaces, and they'll put it on their kind of same route that they do when they monitor Morse Court. They felt it would make their job clearer, that the spot is 15 minutes, it's 15 minutes. They didn't seem to have an issue on enforcement and felt it would be clearer for them to enforce 15 as opposed to what's loading, what's not loading.
All right, and they believe they can enforce the 15 minutes.
I did. I wouldn't have brought it up if they had a problem, because that's where they, the whole thing could come unglued. But so I actually talked to them first after I spoke to the deputy chief.
Okay, I'm willing to give this effort a try. It's kind of responding to, who are our customers? I mean, our customers are taxpayers and shoppers in town and shop owners. Yeah, and Jim, I'm very aware of what we should be doing for truck drivers and deliveries, but our main clients here are sort of, businesses in town and taxpayers in town. So I think this helps. I hope this helps a lot, actually.
Yeah, and I'd assume we would implement it once the changes happen on Elm Street, for the bump outs, as well as whatever's going to happen. I know, on Main Street, there's some work to be done in reconfiguring. So I figure when all that goes through, that will make the most sense.
You wouldn't suggest to do this now?
If it could be signed and striped, yeah, but I know there's a lot because of the crosswalks and, all that.
I can work
All right,
with
well,
Tiger
then-
on that, and we can get it done
Yeah.
as soon as possible. If it's just a matter of signage, we could do that probably sooner rather than later, but let me work on that with Tiger, and we'll try to get that done as soon as possible.
That'd be good. Okay. All right, so then let's have a motion.
So I would move that we adopt the 15-minute parking and signage that's been proposed for the loading zones, for the 3 loading zones, on a, I guess, it's a trial basis, or?
I wouldn't even do a trial. I would just say adopt it, but we'll have our antenna up for change if need, like we always do. We're
Okay,
acceptable with
I move that we approve that.
that.
I
Second. Okay, all those
Aye.
in favor?
All
Aye.
right.
All right, that's unanimous.
While we have Laura, can I ask, I was asked by the people at the Rosie's restaurant about the outdoor dining. They had tables out, which they liked. And now with the warmer weather approaching, the barriers were removed for snow plowing and haven't been returned. I think we had voted that barriers would remain until the bump outs were built. So I guess the question is, what is the status of that? And, Laura, I'm asking while you're still on, because you may have had discussions with people about this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the status of that is. Something happened up in Hartford. I saw Lucy Dathan posted something about restaurants and not extending something, and I actually emailed her to get a better understanding of that. I think that's ultimately going to be a decision of our health department. If they feel that the expanded outdoor dining is necessary, it folds in health department, P&Z, first selectman's office. Ultimately it will be a decision. We have to allow a 4-foot ADA accessibility. And, that is a narrow sidewalk down there. Elm and LPQ can put a couple tables out. And, Rosie, if we remember, Rosie's outdoor dining used to be 2 tables up against the side there.
Right.
And unless we expand the sidewalk there and take parking away from Elm Street, I don't think they're going to have any opportunities. It's, that decision will come from, as I said, health department and P&Z if they want to put those barriers back up.
And Jim, I'll go talk to her tomorrow, because she can set up tables as long as she has a 4-foot path for the pedestrian walkway. Again, it is a narrow sidewalk, but she also has that awning that covers her front door. If she removed that, I think she'd have a little bit more accessibility now that the warmer weather's coming. but also
I
when,
think they remove that in the warmer weather.
yeah. And,
Yeah.
I do want to reevaluate the bump outs because I think considering doing one down in that area would be beneficial to that area as well. So I know Tiger jumped off, but he's bringing the bump outs to the Board of Selectmen next week, but he's going to do it in phases. So the first phase is just going to be the area between the movie theater and down to the South Avenue crosswalks. I think that's going to be his first phase in just that side and just that area. So not any of the other phases. So once he's done with that phase, maybe we can reevaluate where else to do it and see if we can incorporate some of those lower Elm Street areas and businesses.
Yeah, I think we're open to that. All right, good. Come back to us on that. Then. But I really like
And the-
eating
and
outside.
the turn-
you know.
I'm sorry, and the turn from Elm to South.
Yeah, that's got to be looked at too.
Yeah, we're not doing that yet. That's not part of the first phase.
Got it. Okay. Moving on. Drug testing and behavioral health. Chief, this is yours.
Sure. So this is a new policy that's connected with Connecticut's police accountability law and the requirements, which are many. This is specifically related to drug testing every 3 years and behavioral health testing every 5. It was reviewed by Cheryl Jones and a town attorney, and it's pretty self-explanatory about steps and requirements and things that need to be done. It was also sent to the union and reviewed by the union, and I'm requesting that you approve it.
Okay. Commissioners, any thoughts here? We're kind of in a spot where we, this is state statute now. And this is what all towns have to do in the state, so. And the union chief is on board with this. I mean, it's pretty straightforward what you have to do.
Yeah, they've had an enormous amount of time to review it and provide comment, and we met once. There could be other revisions if they come up with other items that are reasonable, but as is, it's a good version to implement so that we can start scheduling our officers to get them tested and evaluated so we can be in compliant with the law and make sure that the certifications don't lapse.
All right, and as you said, Cheryl's on board as well, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Motion on this?
So I
Commissioners?
would move that we adopt the drug testing and behavioral health assessment general order as proposed.
Very good. Second?
Aye, second.
Aye. All those in favor? Aye.
Right?
Okay, that's unanimous. Good. All right, townwide security initiatives updates.
Sure. So since our
Yep.
last meeting where I presented the proposal for townwide security, I also presented it to the Board of Finance, and last night to Town Council Board of Finance unanimously voted in favor of it. Town Council, I believe, is voting next week because of a snafu with the agenda and a vote. But all impressions are that they're fully supportive of it. And we're starting to move those initiatives forward and doing work, and we'll update you as things progress along, but it looks to be very promising.
Great, thank you. Police building renovation update?
I don't have much other than I did mention it last night, again, how critical it was for us to make a decision and move things forward sooner rather than later, given inflation and labor costs rising, et cetera, and just a general condition of the building. I do know that there is a envelope test on Friday where they're going to dig out a certain section around the foundation to see what the status of the foundation is. So that's a good thing. And also there is a building committee meeting next week. So I'm hoping some initiative comes from that and things move forward quickly so we can get moving forward on what has been needed to be done for many years.
Right, I think pretty much all town bodies, for the most part, are on agreement as to keeping it where it is and either renovating or build new. I think that's where we're sort of headed. And to do a study, a real, detailed study as to, renovate, new, and go from there. And then you can make a real decision as to what to do, but at that location. So
That's right.
Has any of these,
propo-
I'm sorry, Paul, I need to
Sorry,
ask
go
you a
ahead.
question.
Yeah.
Has any of these town bodies have managed to change the mind of our selectmen?
That's $1 million question.
Not that I'm aware of.
So he's still saying move the police station.
I don't know. I'd like to update. I'd like to talk to Kevin and find out where he is on this right now.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. 23 proposed budget, 2023 proposed budget.
Sure. So I presented our FY23 budget to Board of Finance, and to my knowledge, nothing was cut. Last night I presented to the town council, and they're voting, I believe, next week or later this week. I'm not exactly sure. So we're not sure what's going to be cut there, but I have no indications anything is going to be cut. So that went along well, and they were actually very supportive of our department and complimented our officers on how well they interact with the community and how well they police the community, et cetera. So that's certainly, I passed that along to all our department members and civilian staff, because they're the team that kind of makes us perform so well. It's not us,
Right.
it's them.
That's right.
So that's a really important recognition there. So all indications are our budget will get approved as requested.
If I could just go back one to the building renovation update. There has been some development up at Worcester Mountain where we do some training. Would you like to address that, Chief, or Deputy Chief? Either.
Sure. Yeah, John can interject as needed, but recently due to so right now, Mondays, Wednesdays are half days available for law enforcement. Tuesdays, I believe, are civilians, and the half days on Mondays and Wednesdays are civilians or other organizations. Thursdays and Fridays were full days for law enforcement. But due to some neighbor complaints and some pressure from the state, who actually owns it, but a private club manages it, they cut out any use on Thursdays. So that's a huge detriment to the dozens of departments that compete for time there. So that's a major issue. We're hoping we're going to be able to kind of change minds there, but we're not sure. So that could be an indicator of things to come. So that's even why it's more essential for us to have our own training facility, as I presented a number of months ago,
Right.
so that we can have control over it. We can train our officers properly and effectively and teach them the right way to react to sometimes violent situations. So that's a really essential part of our renovation, or as new, that training facility.
Right. I just want to make sure the other commissioners were aware that we're losing Thursdays up there, and the competition for time is now greater. So, okay. College course approval for Sergeant Milligan.
Sure. Sergeant Milligan is continuing his education, his graduate education for a project management class, and I recommend approval.
Okay. Motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved. Second,
Aye.
Shakeba. Aye.
Yep.
All those in favor? Aye. All right,
Aye.
that's unanimous. Good. And then Officer Connolly.
Officer Connolly is continuing his graduate education for a class, and I recommend approval for that as well.
Okay. He didn't say what class, but I mean, assume it's all within the.
Yeah, it just references next graduate class. So
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
I'm sure. Okay. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Great. Chief, letters of appreciation.
sure. Nice part of the meeting. We have a bunch. So first one is from our former first selectman, Rob Malazzi, and he recognizes Deputy Chief DeFederico and Lieutenant of Police for their good work in helping to honor the tragic loss of Steve Benko. And so thanks to Rob for taking the time to write that letter, and thanking our department members for the way we were able to honor Steve Benko for his service to the town. So that's a nice note there. Next note is for Officer Coughlin and Gibson. Thank you related to a broken doorknob that some residents came to look for sale. and one of their children was trapped inside, and the officers were able to rescue the child. So that's a nice thing to see when someone's here thinking to live in town, and our officers serve them so well. Hopefully they'll move into our town and we'll be able to continue that service. So that's a nice note there. Next note is for Officer Nick Falbo regarding him stopping and helping this gentleman with a flat tire. Said he meant a lot standing in the rain, and he wants to thank him for the good work he did in helping him. Next note is for Officer Gibson, who also assisted this gentleman, and a thank you note related to that. Another note for Officer Gibson related to a resident who said she's thankful for the officers who protected her family on the evening of September 2020. And she states specifically she's tremendously grateful to our department for making the town safe and peaceful place which to live, and for stepping in to enforce when others should have but did not. So that's a nice note there. Another note for Officer Dewey related to him assisting a resident on Lambert Road that had a video that we thought might be useful for an investigation. So that's nice that resident took the time to write. Another note related to catching a car thief and some mailbox thieves who had about $50,000 worth of checks in their possession from out of state. And the gentleman thanks our officers for catching these people who come to prey on our residents. Another note that was actually provided by Lieutenant D. Felice to Ching's Table. Some of their folks there helped with translation related to a behavioral health case that we had, and we wanted to thank them for helping us in that way. So that's a true community partnership there. So that's a great thing to see.
Very good.
That's all I
Thank
have.
you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Any other matters? Okay.
We
Um,
received, we did
Mhm.
receive, Jennifer sent round these materials regarding the proposed development at Weed and Elm.
Yes, yes.
And I guess my only, at this stage, I don't know that we need to do anything, but I have a question, which is, I believe they're proposing to build 100+ units there on what is now a single-family house property. What is our role? And maybe John, you could speak to this. What is our role? Obviously, one of the impacts, it'll have enormous impacts in many areas, but one of the impacts will be traffic, where, you know, that intersection functions well. In my opinion, I drive through there fairly often. It sometimes gets a little bit busy. If you remember, we had a proposal at one point to put a stop sign or a stoplight there, which we turned down, and we concluded it really was not necessary. But you know, if you add 150, 200 more vehicles coming out on that corner, obviously there's going to be huge traffic. So what is our role as the police commission in examining or evaluating what needs to be done? So for example, would we need to expand that road and make turning lanes and recommend eminent domain of some of that property to accommodate the lanes? I don't know. I'm just asking, what is our role?
Right. For right now, we don't do anything. We wait for the developer to provide traffic studies to the planning and zoning in that phase of this proposal. We've already had Galante look at that intersection previously. And so, we can't, nor should, we shouldn't change anything there right now, because that would look like we're trying to change the makeup of the landscape to defeat the proposal or anything like that. So we will wait and see what the developer comes up with their traffic study, and then we'll have time to rebut it and come up with our own recommendations and look at our own traffic studies that are done by our town hired traffic engineer. But no, I agree with you. It's going to significantly impact traffic in that area. certainly that scale.
That's right.
And, we'll have to also look at how they're going to access it. Are they going to access it from Elm Street or from Weed Street? Will there be multiple access points? Will there be also ways for fire to get in there? Will there be, multiple access points for fire? So there's lots to get looked at here from traffic and how it will impact all of the surrounding roads. So right now it's in the early stages. Lynn Brooks, from Planning and Zoning, has asked us for 5 years of accident history up at that location, which I'll start to compile and put together for her. So we'll work jointly with Planning and Zoning on it and stay ahead of it. But definitely part of this will be a requirement for the builder to provide a traffic study to look at.
Okay. Now, I have one other thing, which is I've been asked a couple times about at the other development, the View, on the street that runs behind the church. I think that's Maple. Is that Maple behind the church there? I think so.
Yes, that's Maple.
It's no parking overnight, but apparently the residents from the View park all night. And so I've been asked, the parking enforcement people are not working at night. I've been asked if the police would ticket the vehicles that are in violation there overnight.
I will have our night shift crew take a look at that. I believe the town ordinance is pretty clear about parking overnight, so we can take a look at that and see if that's a problem.
Okay. I know when they plowed, they had to go around them, which is what
Right.
triggered one of the inquiries, but
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
that's typically what we, usually look for in the wintertime, is try to keep the roads clear for plows, but I'll double check the town ordinance, but I believe it's pretty clear. It's no parking overnight.
okay.
So Jim, you're saying this is the one on Maple Street?
Yeah.
But don't they
well,
have parking at the View?
Yeah, apparently, for whatever reason, people at the View are not necessarily parking in the parking spots underneath. They're parking on Maple and leaving the cars there overnight.
They may have multiple
Okay.
cars and not enough parking inside. or
Right.
He
Well,
also, the way
yeah,
they
so
built it
go ahead, Jim.
was the parking, if you have an apartment, apparently, what you get is 2 parking spots, but it's not what you would expect. It's one car pulls in and the other car has to pull in behind it. And so, your spouse says, I want to get out, and your car's behind, you have to both go down and move both cars, so people tend to not want to use those spots, apparently. That's what I'm told.
Okay. Hey, just on this same sort of track and going back to Elm and Weed, is there some kind of study that can be done, should be done? And I don't know if it falls under us, but as we get greater and greater density in town, and what the impact is on the town, and I don't think anybody's really looked at that. In that, all of a sudden now we've got the View with a lot of people. We're gonna have, if this other project goes in, it's another 100 and so units. There's another project going in on off of 123 that's also high density. What's the impact on police? What's the impact on fire, EMS, et cetera? I don't know who's looking at that, because if you're adding all these units with all these people, is our force large enough to handle that? Is the fire department large enough to handle that? Is EMS large enough to handle it? I mean, I don't think any, and then you take it to the schools. Well, what's the impact of the school? So I don't know. It's not under our purview as such, but it's something that I think we should all be aware of, and we may need to take a harder look at that.
That is a great suggestion, because I think
Um,
if we move
ye-
the police station and put another 120
Right.
units on Main Street,
Or more.
I mean, South
you
Avenue,
could,
I'm sorry.
you could put in a lot
Mhm.
more units than 100 there.
I know.
Correct. I mean, you could go up and out and back and
Yeah.
add, I don't know, many units there. So that's just another part of the thought process in keeping the police station where it is. But also what's the impact of all this? I mean, these things last forever if they're going to be approved. And it changes the nature of the town and the nature of the police force and the nature of the fire department, the nature of BMS, et cetera. So. Okay, anything for, let's go into executive session for a minute, if we can. I need a vote to go into executive session at 7:20.
1 second, Paul.
Okay, we are back out of executive session at 7:25. Is there any other business to discuss in the public session? Anybody else? Okay, hearing none. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay. Second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
All right.
All right, we'll see you all next month. All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.